Where are you supposed to light your candles, right? Chanukah, that's what we're doing. Where are you supposed to light your candles? So the best place to light your candles, again, I'm going to give you the halachas and then we'll work out what happens over here in the yeshiva, because of course in a public place like this, it's not exactly the same as doing it at home, but the best place to light your Chanukah candles is outside the front door, pointing towards the street. Now, if, for example, you have, lots of homes, for example, have a garden at the front, right? So it would actually be better to light your menorah. If your menorah can't really be seen very well from the street, it would be better to actually light it at the entrance to the, to the gate leading to the path that goes up to the house, rather than by the front door. Right? Why is that? Because what we mentioned before, that the mitzvah of Chanukah is Pirsumei Nissa, to publicize the miracle. So the more people who can see the lights, the better it is. Now, there might be a couple of practical problems with that. The first problem might be that if you live in an area where you start lighting things like that in public, it may bring unwanted attention to you. So then you should light the candles inside. We'll talk about that in a moment. The other alternative that might be a problem is that sometimes people live in areas where if they light something like that outside, by the morning it will have disappeared. So if that's the case, then, it would be best to light somewhere that's safer. If the inyan over here is just, you don't want to leave things like that burning outside because you don't know what the neighbors are going to say, then the best place to light the candles would be in a window that faces the street. If you're living in an area, it's interesting, in Jewish history, lighting your Chanukah lights could sometimes be a very dangerous thing to do. Right? If you're going to have them in public over there and people are going to see, non-Jews are going to see, and then it might set off a pogrom of some kind. And we had a few years ago, going back maybe I can't remember, 10 years maybe, there were a couple of guys from Chicago, believe it or not, who said that he lived in a road where there were Orthodox Jews that were living over there, and he said that the Jews that lit their menorahs outside their front doors, so people threw bricks through their windows. They had swastikas daubed on their front doors. It doesn't sound very neighborly to me. Maybe that's the way things are done in Chicago. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Anyway, so the thing to do is, if you are living in an area where lighting your candles, it's not great to light your candles in public. There are probably places in Paris where it's probably better not to draw attention to yourself, right? So then you should light inside your house, not next to the window. Where's the best place to light? So the best place to light would be next to the front door on the inside. Right? If you want you want the candles to be lit, but you don't want to be lit in such a prominent way that it's going to draw unwanted attention towards you. So light them next to your front door. It's enough that there are people in the house that are seeing the candles being lit, and there's your Pirsumei Nissa. You're publicizing the miracle. When you light your candles next to the front door, so there's a very beautiful halacha which says that you should light the candles on the left-hand side. Right? Why is that? Because on the right-hand side you have a mezuzah, and on the left-hand side you'll have the menorah, and that way when you go in and out of the door you're going to be surrounded by mitzvahs. Right? So just
if you're
walking in, right? On the left and walking in. If you're lighting your Chanukah candles on the inside.
Sorry, can you repeat that? What you said, I didn't.
Which bit? From where?
After you said it's important to publicize the miracle. You said where you light the
candles. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, let's go back. When you're lighting your candles on the outside of your front door, so you should light them on the left-hand side of the door.
Okay.
Right? And again, why is that? Because you've got the mezuzah on the right-hand side, and then you'll have the menorah on the left-hand side, and you're going to be surrounded by mitzvahs. When you light the menorah inside your house, next to the front door, so then you should light the candles on the right-hand side, because obviously you want to have the mezuzah on the other side. That way you're going to be surrounded again. Here in Israel, lots of people, the majority of people, live in apartment blocks. Right? Where are you supposed to light your menorah when you're living in an apartment block? What's the problem? If I light outside my front, here, for example, I live on the 7th floor. right? And if I light my candles outside my front door, then no one's really going to see it because nobody's coming up to the 7th floor unless they're coming to see me, right?
So
Which I can't imagine why they would do that. And if they do, it's probably not someone I want to see. So therefore, there's no publicizing the miracle. So what we do is that we light the Chanukah candles actually using the kitchen window, which points back, and there are apartments behind us. So the people in the apartments behind us can see the Chanukah lights. We can see them inside the apartment as well, of course. And that way we get to fulfill the mitzvah. The problem is if we were to light them out the front, the window out of the front of the apartment was so high up that it's not so simple to see these things from down below. Which means that the Pirsumei Nis, the publicizing the miracle, is not going to be there. What happens over here in the yeshiva? So first of all, it is completely and absolutely forbidden to light your menorah in your bedroom.
Not for halachic reasons, just for...
Not for halachic reasons whatsoever, simply because the yeshiva has not been paying its fire insurance policy over the last little while, and you don't want to burn the place down. It's just, practical stuff. Where do people in the yeshiva light their candles? So the majority of the people are probably going to light them in the Chad Ochel. Chad Ochel has got a whole bank of windows that point out into the street. So that's a perfectly good place. I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people that are going to light their candles also up the stairs, right, coming into the part where the gate is locked over there, because that's also a nice open space where, first of all, there's no danger of setting anything on fire, and secondly, it's seen by the street, so it's a very good place to be lighting your candles. Over here in Israel, you can buy menorahs that most of them are very cheap. Unless you're going to go off and buy yourself something very ornate, right? But you can just buy sort of like simple metal things that can take all different kinds of candles or oil, depending on what it is that you want to what you want to use. And this whole thing will probably set you back, maybe 30 shekels. If you're going to somebody for Shabbos, you've got two options. You can either take your menorah apparatus with you, right? Or bless you, adisui, all the paraphernalia, you can take it with you, or I think I can't remember if we mentioned this, but you could give a symbolic amount of money to your host,
okay, fine.
right? Shavei pruta, which is like I said, half a shekel maybe,
Yeah.
and that way you can then become a partner inside of his candle lighting, and that means that you're fulfilling your obligation. If you're going away for Shabbos, that probably makes more sense, I would have thought. Unless you want to, take it with. Your hosts will be very happy to add your menorah into their menorahs in order to allow you to fulfill the mitzvah if that's what you want to do. The menorah itself, when it's placed, it shouldn't be too high and it shouldn't be too low. Too high is, we're talking about 3 tefachim, which is about 12 inches. You should try to, if it's more than 20 amos, which is quite a height, but nevertheless, if it's more than 20 amos, then you can't fulfill the mitzvah because people can't see the whatchamacallit, they can't see the light. Now, in every menorah that you buy in Mitzvah Hashem, I hope there will be 8 lights, 8 places for the candles, and then another place as well for an extra candle. That extra candle is called a shamash. The word shamash means to serve, right? L'shamesh. Shuls sometimes have a shamash. He's the one who makes sure that everything is running smoothly. The word for the sun in Hebrew is a shemesh because it serves God continuously in a very obvious fashion. And the shamash is there to serve the other lights. What's the problem? The problem is that the Chanukah lights can't be used for anything. You can't get any benefit from them, which means you can't get benefit, you can't read from their light, you can't toast marshmallows on them, you can't do anything with them. They're just there in order to fulfill the mitzvah, and that's what you're supposed to be concentrating on. That's what's supposed to be important for you. What's the problem? The problem is that the Chanukah lights are going to give light by definition, right? Once you've lit them, they're going to be, strangely enough, a light. And therefore, they're giving off light in the room, and that could be a problem because now you're getting benefit from the light that's being given. So along come the idea of adding an extra candle called the shamash, and the candle is there to give its light as well. The shamash candle light mingles together with the other light, and then it's less problematic to get some kind of benefit, right? So if you don't have a shamash, burning over there, if you don't have a shamash burning, then it's going to be a problem to be looking at the candles and getting benefit from the candles at all. Some people use their shamash in order to light the other candles as well, right? So let's say, for example, on the second night, or you know what, on the fifth night, you could use a match, but you need a pretty long match to be able to light all those candles off in one go. So people use the shamash. And again, whatever you do, it's going to be fine. When you buy your boxes of candles, they're going to come with 44 candles in them. 36 are for the candles that are needed for the 1 + 2 + 3 until you get to +8. And the shamash, you're going to get another 8, 1 shamash for each day, right? And like I said, the shamash is pretty important. Okay, when you come to light the candles, you should endeavor to light all the candles by yourself, right? So if you're I'm not saying this clearly, but let's say it's the 6th night of Chanukah, there's a lot of candles that need to be lit, then you should really make sure that you're lighting all the candles, unless you've got to rush to do another mitzvah. So for example, you've got to rush to go to daven, you haven't davened yet, then then you can let somebody else take over. You're fulfilling the obligation in its simplest form, right? The obligation is being fulfilled through lighting one candle. We spoke about that yesterday. We'll talk about the brachas of Mitzvah Hashem soon. But if you make the bracha and you light the one candle, you fulfill your obligation. Somebody else can then take over in order to let you perform a different mitzvah if needs be, right? But preferably, the best thing to do is to give yourself enough time to be able to do this. Now, this is important for Erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos there's a lot to do in a very limited amount of time. Erev Shabbos Chanukah is one of the shortest Erev Shabbos of the year, right? Shabbos is going to come in very early. What did we say? We spoke around 4 o'clock, maybe even a few minutes before 4 o'clock.
When does it start getting later again?
After December the 21st, no? I think.
So how does that work? It starts at 5 or 6 after that? Or
it will each week it will become later, right? So, but only by a few minutes.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, Shabbos is at 4 o'clock. Then the next week it'll be at 4:05, and the week after that 4:10, and then at some point, of course, they'll change the clocks, and then the difference will be enormous.
Yeah.
But that's over here in Israel,
Yeah.
right? In other countries, the differences from week to week they're actually very marked. They're very big. So, for example, in London, in the summer, you can have a 20-minute difference between one Shabbos to the next. It's because it's being determined by the sun setting, right? And as the summer days get longer, right? So you've got more time until the sun sets, and that gives you, a longer day than you had the week before. And that means that instead of Shabbos coming in at instead of it coming in at, let's say, at 8:30, it's going to come in the next week at 8:45 instead. So it's something, you get calendars that have all the times in them, and you have to, follow the times to make sure that you're doing things correctly. In all events, right? On Erev Shabbos, you've got to get your Shabbos has got to be got ready. The Chanukah candles have to be lit. The Shabbos candles have to be lit, and you've got to daven mincha. So what most people will do on Erev Shabbos is that they daven mincha early, just to give themselves a little bit more time, because it really is tight. Time-wise, it really is tight. So what you'll probably find is over here in the yeshiva, for example, they'll have an early mincha, or maybe even 2 early minchas, right, at some point, and they're there for your convenience, right, just to make sure that you can get this all done in time. Otherwise, it really is a problem. Some shuls have a minyan early for mincha, and then they'll have a minyan at the regular time for mincha, and if then you've got to squeeze everything in and go rushing off to shul. Whatever. You'll do the best that you can, right? Okay, one more halacha for today. Menorahs come in all different kinds of sizes and shapes as well. And some menorahs they have a back to them, right? So they're here, they'll look like that, right? And the candles will be at the front, and the back, it's like a decorative thing. If you've got a menorah that looks like that, how are you supposed to light it? Here's the problem. If I light it like this so that the people in the house get to see it, get to see the candles, then the people in the street can't see the candles. If I light it like this so that the lights are facing the street, then the people in the house can't get to see the candles. So because of the halacha of Pirsumei Nisa, of publicizing the miracle, it's better that the lights face a street. The more people that can see it, the better it's going to be. However, my son-in-law showed me a little idea which is really very simple and makes you wonder how come you never thought about it yourself. But if you light your candle, if you light it like this at an angle, that way the people in the house can see the candles and the people in the street can see the candles as well. And maybe that's an even better way of lighting the candles, because that way you're publicizing the miracle to everybody out and in as well. The other menorahs are less complicated. If you've got a menorah that doesn't have a back, right, then you don't have to worry about anything because it can be seen from both sides. And interestingly enough, there's even a halacha that two people can share one menorah at the beginning of Chanukah. So you can light on one side, they can light on the other side, and the next day like that, and the third day. The minute you get to the fourth day, it's a problem. Because if everybody's lighting 4 candles, then the whole of the menorah is being used, and it looks like it's the 8th day when it's not the 8th day, which means that for the first 3 days, you can share the menorah itself with somebody else, using your own, each one using their own candles, because there'll be a gap between the two sides. By the 4th day, you can't do that anymore, and you'll have to share in a different way altogether.